Hey guys, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button if you like this video. With that, let's get into it. Are we there yet? Bakugou growled out, his irritation growing from anticipation. How much longer are we gonna walk for? Just a little more, he heard you say. Your hand was the only thing that he was relying on right now, as he was currently blindfolded. The sound of footsteps, as he carelessly snapped on twigs and leaves, filled his ears, and he could only guess that you were both meandering through a forest of some sorts. Why the hell do I have to wear this stupid thing anyways? He continued to complain, referring to the cloth that was wrapped around his eyes. He, of course, did not like to be blindfolded. You better not be taking me to some shady-ass place. Can't you trust me for 1 second? He spoke to him. I promise none of your place. After he said that, the blonde boy then tripped over something, his body catching himself so that he didn't bring you down completely with him. Oops, you then let out, as you felt your grip on his hand tighten. Sorry. Forgot to tell you there was a tree branch right there. Yeah, you're not reassuring me at all, idiot. He grumbled out. He wondered why he even agreed to being blindfolded in the first place. It was almost bedtime when you had spontaneously came up to him and asked him to go somewhere. He would have rejected you, since you had to wake up early in the morning. But you had to give him those annoying-ass pair of eyes. It was the way your eyes sparkled at him, excitedly. How you were smiling, like you had something special you wanted to show him. It took a bit of convincing, but you ended up agreeing anyways, although he would never admit out loud that he was merely coerced by how cute you were. Just bear with it for a little longer, he said, and you both then drifted into silence. All you could hear left were the cricket chirping and the low buzzing of cicadas. All you could feel was the ground underneath his feet, and how warm your hand was against his. He felt weary and impatient, but it was okay. It was okay because you were holding his hand. At some point, you two had come to a complete stop, and Bakugou only waited for you to say something. Well, he questioned, tempted to rip the cloth around him then and there. Are we here yet? Give me a moment, he then said, and he felt your hand release his. He stuffed his hands in his pocket, listening carefully as he heard rustling in front of him, wondering just what on earth you were doing. There, it's done now, he heard you say a bit farther away. He then felt you pull him by the crook of his elbow, guiding him a few steps forward. You can take it off now. Finally, he muttered, and then used his other hand to yank the piece of cloth off, his eyes instantly scanning his surroundings. You were both currently in the middle of a large open field, with a forest of trees surrounding the vicinity. Huh? He said a bit loud, confusion laced in his tone. We walked for miles, just to see grass? He then looked at you. Although you were hard to see because it was dark, there was a small pout on your face. No, you told him. It's not just grass. You then tugged on his arm a bit more. Come on, take a seat. It was then when you had noticed the large blanket that was sprawled out on the ground. There was also a small, dimly lit lantern at its corner. He watched as you sat down on the blanket, letting go of his arm. In the meantime, and he had no choice but to follow suit. plopping himself right next to you. He only observed you as you then laid down on the blanket, pointing at the sky above. "I wanted to show you this," he said, and his eyes followed up. Leaning back on his hands, he looked up at the sky that filled with countless stars. It had been a while for him seeing a sky this clear, as the cities were filled with light pollution. The naked eye could barely make out even the brightest of stars and planets due to the noisy city. But still, it was simply a sky to him, and he could only stare uninterested at the stars that barely moved or did anything besides twinkle. "Lay down with me," he then said, and pulled on his arm once more. He glanced over to you. From the dim lamp, he could see how excited you were, and he ended up doing it anyways. The hard ground was uncomfortable, and he felt pebbles digging from underneath him, but he didn't complain about it. "It should be starting soon." "What?" he asked, but his question remained unanswered as you changed the topic. "Look at that constellation over there." You pointed, and he looked at that direction. "That's Ursa Major, which means Ursa Minor should be right next to it over here." "What? That upside-down frying pan?" he commented. "Yeah, I suppose that's a word for it." You giggled out. "Cassiopeia is right there." "A little bit to your right. It's a W-shaped one." He squinted at it. "Yeah, I kinda see it." "I heard that Cassiopeia was named after a vain and boastful queen," you continued. "It kinda reminds me of you." "Huh?" he let out. "The hell's that supposed to mean?" I'm kidding. You let out jokingly. "Seriously? A queen? Isn't there something much more interesting than that?" "Well, there's also Draco, which is right next to Ursa Minor." You then pointed at the larger constellation. "You kind of remind me of that one too." "That's more like it," he then let out, satisfied that he was being compared to a dragon rather than a queen. "What about me? Is there something out there that reminds you of me?" you asked, eyes twinkling in curiosity at him. "No, not really," he replied in disinterest. "Don't know much about stars anyway." "Well, you could at least look more excited." He heard the pouting tone in your voice, followed by a sigh. "Oh well, I didn't expect you to be too into this anyway." Bakugou didn't reply, and instead turned his head to look at you. He didn't look pleased at all, as you were used to his behavior by now, and you were just staring up at the starry sky above you. "Didn't realize you were into this kind of stuff," he commented. "Yeah, I like it a little bit." "A little bit?" Your eyes were sparkling as much as the stars right now, and he couldn't bring himself to look away. He had never seen you look like this before, except maybe with food. Even if he was just looking at you from just your side profile, he could see the reflection of every single galaxy in your eyes. "Oh, it's starting," he then said, surprising him. Once you grabbed his hand, he turned his head back to the sky, and his eyes widened a bit as he observed the shooting stars that flew across the vast plain, one by one. "It's a perfect night for a meteor shower." He didn't expect you to show him something like that, but he didn't care for it anyways. Stars were just stars, intangible and unreachable, something that he had no use in admiring over. What he did care about, however, was you. As he turned his head back to look over to you, he couldn't help but think about how beautiful you looked. The entire world was in front of him, yet all he could see was you. Bakugou's grip on your hand tightened as he felt a strong wave of emotions wash through him. He noticed the way you blinked and the way you looked over to him. "Katsuki?" you questioned, concern in your eyes. "That one," he suddenly said. "Huh?" He raised his hand and pointed at a single bright light in the sky. "That star reminds me of you." You followed his direction, and he noticed the way your cheeks flushed slightly. "That's not a star. I'm pretty sure it's Venus." "Well, it's the brightest thing in the sky right now, isn't it?" "Yeah, it is," you replied back shyly. "But I'm not as pretty as something like Venus." "If I say you're like it, then that's what you are," he argued back. "Don't sell yourself short, idiot. I'd take you over some dumb planet any time." "What?" he said incredulously. "Don't call Venus dumb." "You're completely missing what I'm saying." He couldn't control his next few words, and he definitely could not control the blush that had burned its way onto his cheeks. "I'm saying you look pretty, dumbass." There was a small pause as he took in his words. You can't just compliment and insult me in the same sentence like that," you sputtered. He smirked at the way your face grew even redder, finding your reaction cute. "Really? Who says I can't?" he teased, and then reached with his other hand to pinch your cheeks. "Anyway, pay attention to the meteor shower, dummy." You let out another cute pout before you looked back up, and you two drifted into another comfortable silence. It seemed that it was reaching its maximum peak because the shooting stars were now falling down quicker. It was boring for Bakugou, but he didn't mind it. He didn't mind it because you were right here next to him. And as you laid beside him, hand in hand, he couldn't help but develop an appreciation for these useless stars anyway. After all, he could ingrain this moment into his head forever. This one precious moment with you. "Hey, idiot," he said, after some time had passed. What is it?" "I love you." "Where is this coming from?" He let out a small giggle, and his heart rate quickened. "Shut up," he replied back, flustered, and shyly looked away. "I just felt like it was a good time to say it." Bakugou then glanced at you, and you had that bright smile on your face that you had grown to love. "Hey, Katsuki," you then said. "What?" "I love you too." You two then spent the rest of the night watching the stars. Throwing in some minor bickering, he felt himself having fun. That was because you were the brightest star to him in his eyes. Thank you guys for listening. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. I hope you enjoyed listening to this as much as I did making it. Anyway, goodbye.